Hi, everybody. I'm just preparing the stream. Today we are actually simulcasting on Twitch and YouTube. So that's new, and I hope everything works out. So okay, I guess we just start. I'm going to do a quick recap about what I did the last 2 streams. The last 2 streams I worked on this door intercom module, and I was starting to reverse engineer it. Also, we took apart the indoor part originally designed for it, and we found out that this basically worked as a current mode amplifier for the microphone, so it transferred the audio signal over the current it draws. And we also figured out that there is an undocumented amplifier circuitry here for the speaker. I reversed engineered it, and we got this schematic. So that's the schematic of the amplifier circuitry. And the goal is to actually hook this up to SIP, and the rest of the door intercom system or doorbell system to MQTT. But as today was a really stressful day, I'm not going to dive into that back again just now, and it's going to be more like a bit of a lazy stream, and going to show you some other stuff, and most likely I'm going to repair the screen of my phone because well, I broke it, so that could be fun. And also I'm very happy that I now have got this HDMI microscope, but as you all can see that HDMI is not connected. That's because I currently don't have enough inputs on my streaming machine, which is going to change. I have to change the setup around here a bit, and then I can hook it up with HDMI. Currently it's hooked up via USB, which doesn't give us such high resolution image as over HDMI. Over HDMI, this microscope puts out a 1080p signal, and over USB only 720p. But it's really a great thing, and I will enjoy using it for further streams. I have to build some sort of setup so I can mount it like on an arm or so that it's more out of the way. Now I just have it sitting there. Basically, I can show it you. It's just sitting there on a cardboard box with the included mount, which is actually pretty useless for my use cases because it's just too close to everything, and then the magnification is just too large. So yeah, I'm going to most likely hook it up to an Manfrotto ARM system or something like that. But I can just show you the scope. I have here just a normal RAM module. It's actually a broken one. And I can show you the scope quick. So here we've got the footage from the microscope, and as you see, it's quite awesome. It has some problems with lighting. I actually have to get a better light setup here. Currently I just have 3 fluorescent lamps over me, and I have to eventually invest in a better lighting system, but currently I'm not really having a lot of money, so I'm not going to do that. And maybe just add some diffuser or so that I can get the better and even the lighting and some additional lights, so I can get a more better light here on the desk. The scope actually, let me see if I can show you that. The The scope actually has a built-in lighting, but it's not really usable because it basically reflects often. Let's go back to the scope. So yeah, you see it's pretty spotty, and you get a really it doesn't improve anything, so I'm not using it. Might use it for like other things when I get really close to something. Like for example, I can show it yet later some other things, so you can just take a look. But for what I'm intending to use it, just when I do videos or even surface mount soldering, it's going to be quite good for that. So yeah, actually for the scope I have to thank Scanlime. I talked to her and she recommended that one to me, and it's really awesome because with the HDMI output I can just like hook it up to an HDMI splitter and an additional monitor, and then I have like really low latency image, which I then can use to like for reference if I do SMD work. But I can just show you like you have this tiny resistor networks, and you can clearly see them and even read what's written on there. Let's turn that around so it's facing the right way. Oh yeah, they're actually, interestingly enough, not all placed in the same direction, but you can clearly read it. And let me get something for reference in here. So basically here I have you have here for scale, so that's geodriametric one. So yeah, great English back there, whatever. But for showing stuff it's really good. Here I have a old hard disk. Let me show you that on the other camera a bit. Oops. So here I just have an old SCSI, sorry, SAS hard disk, and you can take a look at it, and yeah, really up close. Here we have some oscillator, and yeah. So for that's really great. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. And yeah, well, today is not going to be much of reverse engineering, just more like general stuff and a bit of a lazy stream. So yeah, actually let's take a more look at a bit of more stuff flying around. So here I have an ESP8266 module, and let me see if I can, yeah, it's, and as you see, it's the problem currently with the lightning that it's a bit reflective, but yeah, you can see it clearly. It's an ESP8266 module. It's actually a Node MCU board. And for that, Microsoft works really clearly. You can read all the components. So that's awesome. I can show you a bit of a close-up of the PCB I reverse engineered, because I actually was never really able to show you it up close. So here we have it. Those are all the resistors we had a bit of trouble analyzing. And yeah, so that's that. And let's see. Yeah, we even can read the direct part markings of the transistor over there, which I before haven't even noticed that there was some. And yeah, also here you clearly can see the 0 ohm jumper resistor. I can get that more, yeah, better. Now it's more in focus. So yeah, you can clearly read the 8FC on the transistor, and the other resistors over here. Let's take something. Oops. So like for example, here we got a 12 ohm resistor, and here the 27 ohm one, and that's I think yeah, let's turn that around so that I don't get confused. Yeah, that's an 8.2 kilo ohm resistor. So that's that. Yeah. So that's going to be an awesome add-on to my setup, and yeah. So I think we might just go ahead, and I'm going to take apart my phone and replace the screen, and you can watch me in the process. I hope that's a bit of interesting stuff. Sorry that there's not much development going on today. It just was a really stressful day, and like shortly at around 7:30 in the morning, people called and with troubles, so for those of you who don't know, I'm currently working as IT support company, and yeah, it was quite a stressful day, so not much energy left for any reverse engineering or stuff like that. So yeah, I will just go ahead and take my phone apart, and you will be able to follow what I do, and that's most likely going to be today's stream. So let me just get stuff. So here we've got the new screen, and actually it comes completely with an home button, but I'm most likely going to replace the home button, but I have to think about that. So for those who don't know, the way iPhones work is that the credentials and the private key information is actually stored in the home button. The home button is basically in TPM. And so if you replace it, actually have to keep track of that. I think it's only really important if you use the sign-on feature with your fingerprint, because then stuff breaks, because this data is really stored in there. But if you just use a passcode, then I think you can get away with replacing the home button. But I will look that up on the way when I fix it. Good. So I will get quickly all the tools I need, and then I'm going to take it apart. So sorry about the short delay. I had to get my magnetic mat so that I don't lose any parts. Put it over here and the phone over here, and maybe let give you a bit of a more of a view. So let's just get started. And the first thing actually is to prop open the display, and now I have to get some thing to lean it against, because that's really helpful when you open it up and you have to wait a bit until you can disconnect all the cables connecting the display to the main PCB of the phone. Let's see what I've got here. Just some box. So So Apple has this pentalobe screws, and it's the screws they use. And let me see if I can give you a better view of that. So those are the screws over down there, are so-called pentalobe screws, and in a lot of spare displays you can buy actually come with a pair of screwdrivers, which I accidentally took the wrong screwdriver. However, I managed that. So yeah, give it a second go. Yeah, that's better. So why the heck doesn't this hold on to anything? I always can recommend a good pair of tweezers. They come really handy. So also, I don't know if you know them, but this magnetic mats are awesome because you can just label everything. So I know afterwards exactly what where everything belongs. So now comes a bit of a tricky part, where you have to pop up the display. I just use like here a suction cup lifter. Oh wait a second, let's get it. Let's get it out of the protective case first. Actually, should have done that before. Okay, so let's it needs a bit of help. So you can use one of this plastic opening tools to carefully pry it open. And once it's open, you can just remove the suction cup and carefully pop it open. You have to be real careful because the cables are actually too short to open it completely. So a trick is to just use a box and just fix it like that. So that's the insides of the phone. Let me see if I can give you a bit of a better view of this. So yeah, that's how it looks on the inside. And we need to actually unscrew this shielding plate over here, and below that there are all the connectors for the FPC cables. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. But before all of that, first thing I'm going to do is to disconnect the battery. So let's get it over here in a more working position. I go over to the other camera because it gives you a bit of a better view. I have to rearrange all the camera setup. I really have to get a Manfrotto Magic Arm, so I can like give you a better view, because right now the way it's set up is I have a camera mounted directly over the desk and one to my left, but the one I'm using to my left actually has a bit of a problem that the lens on it can't focus very close objects, so it's a bit of far away and a bit of bad angle, as you see. That's actually the camera you're seeing right now. It's a really good camera, just not the best optics for that use case, and it doesn't have changeable optics, changeable lenses. So, but let's just continue and disassemble this phone. So I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew the cover of the battery connector. And remove the cover. Oh, that came off, including the battery connection, so we are good. Phone is now completely powered off, and we can continue to remove the shielding plate over the connectors for the display. So actually the display shielding has 3 different kinds of screws. It has one 1.7 millimeter screw, which is the one I just unscrewed. Going to label that. And it has 3 1.2 millimeter screws. And fifth 3.1 millimeter screw. And that's the battery cover, and that's the display shield. Yeah, let's continue unscrewing that and continue with the 1.2 millimeter screws, which are this 3. And for those who just tuned in, this is not normally just normally it's not a phone repair channel. Normally we do electronics engineering or coding, but today was just a very exhausting day, and just don't have really the brains left to do any sorts of reverse engineering. But I said I was going to stream, so I just thought that maybe there's some people around who might enjoy seeing this, or just want to hang out, and so that's what I'm doing today. So here we go. We just removed the shielding of the display connectors, and now we're going to pry one by one, carefully pry off one by one the connectors. They are layered, so you have to be carefully and look which one goes off after the other. Wait a second, maybe I can give you a bit of a better view with this microscope over what's going on. So let me focus that. Okay, so there were like these all here connected, and I just removed them one by one. So now only these two are left to disconnect, and that's what I'm going to carefully do. So that's one, this is disconnected, and that's the last one. And now the phone and the display are separated, and we can go ahead and replace it. So this replacement display I've got has actually comes completely assembled with all the parts. But taking a closer look and showing you with the scope, actually the home button is a bit of a botched job. So yeah, I think I'm going to move over the home button from my original home button, because you can see that it's actually like placed in there, not even completely as it should. It nearly looks like they use some. It nearly looks like if that was a used home button or something like that, but actually it's too clean and unscratched for that. So who knows? Well, maybe let's just put it back together with the new display and leave it alone, because actually to remove the home button, you have to separate some glued parts, which really sucks. So let's just go ahead and mount the new display and see if everything works out. And if not, we can still replace the home button. So and actually the home button on this here, that's already a replaced display, because I managed to break the display like twice in a month after having the phone for years without breaking it, which really sucked. But well, what's done is done. So there's no reason in crying over spilled milk. So sorry that you can't really see that. Let's see if I can give you a better view of what I'm doing. Yeah, I have to get a better camera setup going here. Not really happy with how it's currently done, so yeah. But you can have a bit of a better view because I can't keep out of the way of the other camera view. So actually just doing that with my finger, then I have a bit of haptic feedback if the connector is in the right place, because you basically can feel it lock in place. So those are all back in place. So the only thing left to do is reassemble all the shielding parts and the battery connector, and then we can switch on the phone and see if everything works out. So here's the shielding. Now I'm going to take and give in the mount the 3.1 millimeter. Whoops. No, come back screw. Going ahead and going to mount the 3.1 millimeter screw. If it does not get away another time. So yeah, here it goes. And yeah, just going to screw that in, and then the 1.7 millimeter screw, which is in the upper left corner of the shielding. Going to loosen the screw again a bit, so the shielding can move around until we are in the final position. And then only the 3 tiny 1.2 millimeter screws are left. Those are really tiny screws. Let me show them to you in this microscope. Like they're really incredibly tiny little screws. So here you have the view of the microscope, and that's the screw. And give you some reference. Like here you have some reference. That's how tiny the screw is. Forgot to look at the chat. Do we have some messages? Actually we don't. So yeah. Yay. So okay. Let's no messages in the chat. Well, just continue. And damn it, come back screw. These tiny screws are really hard to get back in, even with like this fine set of tweezers. if I try it differently. Oh, sorry, forgot to switch back. Yeah, I have to remodel my streaming setup so that basically I have a view of the screen just in front of my work area, because currently I have it like sitting to the right of me, so that's not really the best solution. Because it actually makes it hard for me to keep track of the chat and the cameras switching. So I have to think about how to differently set up this whole rig. So I can have a better workflow while streaming, to not forget about things or lose track of like switching the camera back from the microscope to the desk cam or so. That's actually also going to I'm going to like include footage of me myself, like with a like basically so that you can see me. But I have to work here on the setup before I can do that. So yeah, basically I have to clean up the background a bit, because like currently there's sitting like project files and stuff around, and I have to basically move that around, because I don't have the option to like have a separate electronics workbench / streaming, a completely separate workspace for streaming. So I have to look how I rearrange things so that works better. Yeah, basically the display shielding and everything is just reassembled completely. So only thing left to do is actually reconnect the battery and then remount the display shielding and give it a go. Oh, sorry, I said the battery shielding, of course, not the display shielding. So, oh damn, you couldn't see that again. I really should keep better track of what I'm showing you. Sorry, the stream today is terrible. Sorry about that. I promise it will get better. I think it's noticeable that I had a really stressful day, and yeah, so let's just screw in damn it. Let's just screw the cover of the battery connector back in, and we are ready to close up the phone. So, what's going on here? So, that's back together. And yeah, just firmly press everything back together so that everything snaps back into place. Actually, yeah, the phone took really a hard fall in the one corner, and the case deformed a bit. So what the heck is this? And where the hell did it come from? Great. So basically some part of the phone just broke off, which is something I don't like. So I'm going to prop it open again. What the hell? Can't really tell where that came from. Like, that's strange. Like, there's no... Oh, I think I know where it might came from. Yeah, it came from the old display. Everything's fine. That's just something that broke off of the old display. So we don't really have to care about that. Most likely broke off when it took the fall, because it once again landed exactly on the corner where the bumper does not protect it. Because yeah, of course, if it has to crash and break, it will exactly land on that one spot where the most damage can be done. Now that's also the reason why the one screw, when I opened it in the first place, I was wondering why the one screw was basically so loose and didn't really turn, or it turned but it didn't move. And so now we know basically just that the part it was screwed into broke off the display, front part. If I can, yeah. I still have it, so I can show it to you on the scope. So there you have it. Basically, this was one of the hooks holding the whole display in place on the lower side. It was basically the screw goes in here, and that's what it's where it was mounted to. Okay, so phone is back together. Let's switch it on and hope it works. We have a piece of half-eaten fruit sitting there on the screen. And it looks like everything works, and it's just booting up again. Yay, it works. So I'm not going to show you that. Touch works too. Yeah, and it says unable to activate Touch ID, which is to be expected, because as I said, the sensor is locked to the phone. And let's see if it continues to complain. But it looks like everything is alright. Okay, so only thing left to do is to add the screen protector right away. And this is actually made out of glass. Let's see. So thing to go is basically lock this again. We remove the original covering. Then we have here this special wipes. Basically just alcohol wipes. And just give it one clean. But actually, as it's a perfectly new display, it's not really dirty, so that's actually a plus. Trying not to touch it too much. On the side I'm contacting the screen on. Basically we just rub it nice and clean. And then you check if there's any sort of dirt left, and what you do then is take the screen protector, remove the backing, and after that there's no turning back. You try to align it the best you can. And then you just set it down, push once in the middle, and then yeah, you can see it a bit in the camera. Let's see if I can grab that on the microscope very quickly. Oh yeah, awesome, you can see it. So that's the air basically being pushed out of the way, and it just holds with adhesion. Yeah. So that's the screen protector back mounted. Let's check actually if the camera works. So yeah, the camera works because the camera module was also part of the display assembly, which actually was good because there is like the IR sensor for to recognize if your phone is close to your ear. It's basically over here, I think, if I remember correctly. And when the phone was damaged the first time, and actually that connector was ripped off of its PCB. Not this connector, the sensor was ripped off of its PCB, so that didn't work anymore, which was pretty annoying because when you were on the phone, basically were like activating the display all the time and pushing random buttons. But that's fixed now too. And yeah, so much for that. There's nothing in the chat, so guess I'm maybe going to close the stream again for the day. Sorry, wasn't really much interesting stuff going on. But I will be back sometime this week with more reverse engineering, and actually then with the next stream we should get onto the part with actually like building a PCB for the loudspeaker module so that we can hook it up to a Raspberry Pi, and then we get into the MQTT part and everything of that, and I guess that's which will be most interesting for most of the people watching. If you have any requests or just want to say hi, feel free to write them into the chat or in the comments. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please don't forget to subscribe. I'm also on Twitter. Link for Twitter is down in the description of the video. You can contact me there anytime you want. Follow me, and I hope we can hang out again soon and do more interesting electronic stuff. Thanks for watching, and bye.